This video is going to show you how to create a human head out of water-based clay. And what we're going to do is start with a piece of clay about 500 grams in weight, and one about 160 grams in weight, and one about 250 grams in weight. You're going to take the 500 gram piece and form it into an egg shape. You want it to be nice and round egg. You don't want it to have any square corners. Notice how I'm taking my hand and I'm holding it at an angle to get the narrow part on the bottom and wider part on the top. Turn it around and make sure it's got no flat corners. You can even roll it on the table to check that out. Now with the 160 gram piece of clay, you're forming it into a ball. And then you're going to take it and just kind of slap it down on the table, and notice as I'm flattening it, I'm making my hand go in different angles so it's curved on the top. It looks a bit like a flattened mushroom top where it's curved, or a cookie, flat on the bottom, curved on the top. Now I'm going to stretch it and elongate it so it still has that curve on the top, flat on the bottom, but it is more of an oval shape. Now I'm going to draw some lines so you can see how to line up that part that we just kind of flattened and elongated. Just using a pencil or another sharp tool, I'm drawing a line straight down the middle of the egg. Notice the wider part of the egg's at the top, the narrow part's at the bottom. Now I'm taking my fingers and I'm trying to figure out where the center is from the tippy top of the head down to the bottom of the chin. And then where I find that center point, I'm going to draw a line this time all the way around the egg, all the way to the back. Try to keep it straight around it. So it should look like that. When you're done, notice I didn't cut it, I just kind of scratched a line into it. And now we are taking that elongated oval kind of cookie shape and putting it on that top half of the head. Notice where that line is. It's going to overlap the line a little bit. Now I'm curving it over the back of the head. That is going to be the back. This is going to be the cranium of the head, where it sticks out, where your brain is. Notice it's kind of curved there to fit over the back of the head. So then I am going to slip and score. There it is, using water, scratching with a fork, doing it a second time, water scratch, fit it on there. Notice I'm kind of bending and curving my hand as I pat it in place. And then I'm going to smooth it around, all around the side and the top, just using my fingers for that. If you want to, you can use a tool like a knife, a handle of a fork, something like that. When I go around the bottom of it, I am going to use my finger and blend it in a slightly different way. So there's a fork handle, blending, make sure it's straight across the top. See how I'm using my finger on the bottom there because I don't want that to get too flat. Make it look like it's all one part. I may have to take my hand, like I just showed there, and make a little more of an angle, but I don't want it to be square at all. Now I'm just kind of patting it all together, making it actually look like a cranium on the back of a head. You can see right there. Also looks a little bit like the continent of Africa. Here's a skull. Now, notice it doesn't stick out on the clay one as far as the 3D printed skull, but what we're going to do next is move the jawbone forward, because remember, all it is the bottom of an egg right now. But notice it all fits together. It doesn't look like separate, and it's not a square at all. There I am pointing out that you need to move the jaw forward. One way to do it, bend your hand back, kind of hit it there, turn the clay back and forth. You don't want it to be square and flat. You want it to be curved back there. And then I angle where the chin needs to stick out. It's not flat, it's angled, so the back of the jaw is kind of higher up and the chin is lower. This is another way to do it. Angle it and rub it on the table. And again, we're trying to get closer to the skull. So the front of it is a little bit narrower than the back. You might have to squish that. I had to redraw my lines a little bit, or straighten them up, I guess, because when you're squishing that clay around, sometimes they get shifted. Double check that that line is in the middle still. Nice and straight and even. Little narrower on the front of it. And then look at it from all sides, and you may have to do some other adjusting. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to add a neck to our skull. So that was 250 grams of clay. I'm going to make it into a basic cone shape, kind of like a Hershey Kiss. Maybe a little taller and narrower. Flat on the bottom, cone shape. Doesn't have to really point it on the top. Take a look at the size of it compared to the skull. Now I'm going to flatten the top of that a little bit, like that. And now I'm going to cut the top of it at an angle. I'm just kind of drawing the angle there so you can see, because the skull doesn't fit flat on that. It kind of hangs forward. Kind of see where it needs to get cut there. Easiest method for cutting it is to grab a wire cutoff tool. And I'm going to show you how to use that. I'm turning it on the side for the camera, but it's going to be easiest if you just leave it sitting up straight. You're cutting that little angle that I marked. It will help to draw that with something before you actually cut it. There's your angle. And now sometimes I like to squish it taller after the angle is cut, so it looks a little bit more like a neck. You might need to adjust so that little cutout of the jaw to the cranium looks about right. It should be narrower than the head from the front view. I'm also wanting the top of the neck to be narrower than the bottom. I'm kind of teasing out the bottom so it's wider than the top here. Using some water, and I'm going to slip and score. So working the water in with the fork on both pieces, adding water a second time, and scoring again. Score nice and deep. Try to make that slip glue. Adjusting. Now I have to blend it all together. Might be helpful to use a tool if you can't really get it with your finger. Just be careful to not kind of have it misshapen. Use your judgment. Try to make the shape look like a neck. Make sure it's like the chin sticks out in the front. Make sure it sits upright. If it doesn't sit upright, you might have to do what I'm showing there and kind of teasing the bottom a little bit wider, because the neck is smaller than the head, so if the bottom's wider, it'll hold it, give it some stability. Turn it around and just making sure that it basically looks the way you want it to look. So what I've done is I changed my camera angle there, so you can get closer and see the face as I show you the proportions of the face. And I'm kind of turning it around so you can see the shape of the neck. And I'm going to do some dividing lines at this point. So make sure that that line in the middle is really in the middle. The eye fits 5 times across, so that is one eye width that we're going to have for the nose. The other eye width right there, and we're doing more of a skull, so that's more of an eye socket. It does help to draw these shapes on there. It's a little bit wider than it is tall, and see how it's the same spacing. What I'm showing there is the spacing comes all the way back to the widest part of the head. It's not the spacing that you see left on the cheek. Now I'm dividing and finding from that middle eye line down to the very bottom of the chin, the center area. So again, middle of the eye line, bottom of the chin, halfway down there. That's the bottom of the nose, and I'm going to draw a little bit of a triangle there and bringing it up between the eye sockets to see where the eyebrow area will be. Now I'm going to take that line, that's the bottom of the nose, and halfway between it and the chin. Find that measurement, make a little line, and the width of the mouth is halfway, like right in the middle of the eye, straight down. That's going to be the width of the mouth. Check it there. Do your little lines if it helps. There you go. I will be adding more clay to make a chin. So now I'm going to use my fingertip and just kind of roll it around like that to make the eye sockets wider than they are tall. Leave the gap for the nose in the middle. I'm pressing down the bottom of the eye socket just a tiny, tiny bit so you don't have that sharp edge of the eye socket down there. Pressing in the nose area, not making it skinnier, just making it rounder and denting it in when you look at it from the side here. If you look at your face, the bridge of the nose is lower than your eyebrow area, so we're just kind of starting that to happen and rounding the edge of the nose. Then I'm going to take my it's just showing from the side that it's lower. Take the edge of my finger and press in around the outside of that triangle you draw. Again, not very far down. We are going to be adding extra clay to this, but it just gets the nose started for you. And then I'm going to add that clay to the chin. So when I add it, I'm going to make sure it's on the point of the chin. I'm going to use really soft clay. My clay is sticky wet, so I just added a little bit of water. I'm making it go below that mouth line and just stick out. Kind of blend it in back there. Make sure your neck is, considerably further back from your chin. Look at it from the side and it should be just starting to look like a face. And just kind of reshaping the eye sockets there.